Good afternoon. Toronto police have identified the city's latest homicide victim as a 16-year-old boy.
He was gunned down yesterday afternoon inside a Scarborough Tim Hortons. The search now on for suspects. CTV's Allison Hurst joins us live from the scene at Bellamy Road in Lawrence with the latest. Allison.
Natalie, yes, police are still looking for suspects, and they haven't given us any description as to what they may look like. But this Tim Hortons here behind me closed today, but at the time yesterday when it happened, had people inside. Police have identified 16-year-old Kian Sam as the city's second homicide victim, gunned down inside this Tim Hortons at Lawrence and Bellamy yesterday.
It's kind of shocking to me because every day I used to come here for the coffee.
It happened shortly after 4 p.m. Police say Sam was shot with staff and customers inside. None of them reported to be injured.
I feel sorry for the family first, and then, so many little babies come over here every day because they have kids' meal and everything. And then I can't even believe,
The teen was taken to hospital in life-threatening condition.
The victim, who was a teen, was transported to hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased.
Investigators combed the scene through the night, but say there's no suspect description.
We are still in the midst of speaking with witnesses. There will be information we will not be disclosing, so we can get the best witness statement.
All morning, regular customers drove up to get their coffees, stunned to learn of what had happened.
That's so sad to hear. Yeah. I live nearby.
It's a nice neighborhood, and it's very good community. I'm living here for almost 10 years. And almost this is like my daily coffee, morning coffee.
Everybody has to be really careful. For a teenager could be killed in Tim Hortons.
When asked whether it was busy at the time, police say they don't know. And police have not given us any idea as to what the circumstances were that led up to the shooting. We asked them for an updated interview today, but they've declined. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Natalie, Nathan, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Turning now to the latest on a probe into 7 Toronto police officers charged in a corruption and organized crime investigation.
One of those officers is scheduled to appear in court today for a bail hearing. CTV's John Musselman is live outside the courthouse with more details. John.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, we're on standby outside the courthouse. There is a bail hearing happening for Constable Tim Barnhardt. We're still waiting to see what the decision will be made as it refers to his bail. We'll just take you back to yesterday when we got word of this major police announcement involving 7 Toronto police officers, 1 retired officer, the allegations here about bribery, releasing confidential information to organized crime figures, and even allegations of attempted murder. And it brought a lot of questions about public trust in policing. Police Chief Demke was also asked about whether he had been asked about whether he should resign because all of these allegations surfaced under his leadership. Now, the chief was on 1010 radio this morning speaking to John Moore. We did hear what he had to say. We also spoke with a criminal lawyer about the significance of these charges and the impact. Here's what both had to say this morning.
Been aware of this investigation, as you know, for quite some time, and there's been a roller coaster of emotions that you go through as a professional police officer with these types of allegations. And in my 35 years, this is, an incredibly challenging and disappointing moment to have these kind of allegations surface. And, as I thought about it over the months, I've gone from disappointed to angry, and any number of other feelings you might imagine. But in the end, came to the resolution that a calm, steady resolve to make sure we do everything we need to do to address these issues that
there is a vast array of officers involved. And it's interesting because you look at the ranks of those officers, the age of those officers and their tenure of service. I mean, this scandal, these corruption allegations go all the way essentially to the tops of the echelons here. We've got sergeants, veterans of the police force. We've got retired officers. And then we've got officers at the bottom who are in their early 20s who likely have been officers for just a couple of years and are just low-level constables. So there's a wide net that's been cast here. It definitely is the biggest I've ever heard of.
Now, part of the also follow from this is the fact that Chief Demke has asked the Inspector General to review the investigation and some of the policies inside the Toronto Police Department. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. A pedestrian is in hospital after being struck by a vehicle in North York last night. The crash happened at Lawrence and Brookview Drive, west of Bathurst, around 9:30. Paramedics tell us a male pedestrian was rushed to hospital with serious, possibly life-threatening injuries. The driver of the vehicle remained on scene, and the investigation into the cause is ongoing.
Still to come this hour, GO trains continue to run on a modified schedule following Monday's derailment. But the head of Metrolinx says full service will be restored this weekend. The details a little later in the newscast. But first, the wait is almost over after 15 years of construction. The opening of the long-delayed Eglinton Crosstown LRT is just 2 days away.
The line owned by Metrolinx has faced several hurdles, and it opens on the heels of a rough week at the transit agency. CTV Sean Leathong has been speaking with residents along the line who've been waiting for years. So, Sean, how are people feeling?
Well, it's funny you say that, Nathan, because some people are excited. They think their commute's going to get much better come Monday morning or Sunday when it's free. But some people are just over it. They've just had enough of this incredibly long, many delays. 15 years, as Natalie said, the construction has taken to be finished. It was supposed to be done 6 years ago. It's supposed to be open on Sunday, but we will find out when it actually does, because so many people have actually said, we'll see, we'll believe it. I've talked to some businesses in the area. I talked to one who opened in 2023. They say they're hopeful that this will bring more business to the area that I'm standing in right now, which is at Dufferin and Eglinton. There was another one who's been here, a restaurant, for 17 years. They lived through all of it. They said that there was 3 or 4 years where they took a loss. They couldn't get any customers here. The construction was happening at their doorstep, and then once that was done, the pandemic hit. So they're hopeful. The fact that they have survived, that their money, their revenue will go up now that the LRT is open. We also talked to some commuters this morning about it. Here's what they had to say.
I live right at Eglinton and Mount Pleasant, so we had construction for a really long time. So yeah, I'll be happy, especially in the snow, not waiting for a bus. It'd be nice to just hop on that.
I've been talking about it so long. It keeps getting pushed down the road. Like, you know, I used to work down there, and I was excited about it then, but then it got pushed so long that, honestly, at this point, who cares?
So you heard what he said there. It's kind of hard for some people who have been waiting so long, but now it finally will be here on Sunday. We do know that rides are free, and we'll find out a lot more on the morning commute on Monday to see just how the line is running. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Natalie, I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Sean. And at an event marking this weekend's start of service for the Eglinton Crosstown, Premier Doug Ford rejected the idea of a public inquiry, while Mayor Chow said the impact of the new Line 5 on Toronto residents shouldn't be downplayed.
We've learned, all the stakeholders, Metrolinx, DTC, we're all in it together, and I'm the first to come out and acknowledge the mistakes. But I'm not going to waste time on inquiry and all the nonsense, tie all these people up. All these people here have more subways to build. Metrolinx, TTC, so that's what we're going to focus on. We all acknowledge. It'd be different if we didn't acknowledge it, but yeah, has it been a nightmare for all of us? 100%.
19 kilometers, 25 stops, hundreds of thousands of residents, workers, and visitors gaining a new way to move across our city. From Etobicoke to Scarborough, connecting dozens of neighborhoods and helping the small businesses along the route attract more customers. The Crosstown deliver what Toronto needs, a vital east-west rapid transit link that tackles congestion and gets people where they need to go.
City Councillor Josh Matlow posted this parody of a heritage plaque marking the Crosstown's opening, calling it a massive construction site for much of the early 21st century. He then repeats the call for a public inquiry, saying it is necessary to ensure, quote, that the historic fiasco never happens again.
Meanwhile, the head of Metrolinx says full GO train service will be restored this weekend following a derailment near Union Station on Monday. Trains have been running on a modified schedule since Monday when a train derailed and damaged a signal system. The online post from Metrolinx's CEO says the repair work is largely complete. Lindsay also notes GO train service has continued to ramp up every day since the derailment.
I'd say that we've been trying to communicate to the best of our ability throughout this entire week. And our focus has obviously been, first and foremost, to repair and to recover from the incident that we had on Monday, which we have done. You will have seen the hardworking ladies and gentlemen that have been in the USRC, the Union Station Rail Corridor, fixing switches and signals. They are almost done. We are testing that infrastructure today, and as our communications to media and the public have said, we hope to return to full service tomorrow.
The Ontario Liberals say commuter chaos on Monday and challenges in the following days highlight a need for Metrolinx to improve how it communicates with riders.
Too many passengers were left without clear or consistent information. Riders were left unsure about what was happening, how severe the issue was, and when service could be reasonably expected to resume. These communication gaps left commuters in the dark and created unnecessary stress for hundreds of thousands of people. Now, I know residents understand that incidents can happen and that major disruptions cannot always be predicted. But what people don't accept is being left in the dark when they rely on public transit to get to work or home to their families.
Metrolinx CEO Michael Lindsay said improvements were always possible, but the transit agency will continue to be as transparent as it can about GO service and its status. And there is set to be regular subway service on lines 1 and 2 this weekend, but line 4 will be shut down all day Saturday for planned signal work. Shuttle buses will run and service will resume at 8 a.m. on Sunday.
We have more news in a moment, but first here's a live look at the city. This afternoon, there's a shot at Nathan Village Square. Pretty good conditions for ice skating. However, blowing snow and visibility a concern if you're on the roads. There's also another temperature plunge on the way just in time for the weekend. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
Yeah, there is a lot going on here, Nathan. We've already had some snow. We're getting a little bit of a break in some areas. It's still pretty snowy right now for the west end of the GTA. And as we make our way through this afternoon, not only will we see more in the way of snow, but also blowing snow. The winds are really going to pick up, create that reduced visibility. There's actually a blizzard warning in effect for areas well west of here, close to the shoreline of Lake Huron. But yes, a very wintry day today. The wind's not bad right now. They're coming out of the southwest. They're fairly light. We're going to tap into a northwest wind later today. That is going to send our temperature plummeting from about -4 degrees this afternoon to an overnight low near -17, -18 degrees. And that's not the worst of it. The wind chill will be about -31 as we're waking up tomorrow morning. So once again, the GTA under another cold warning. We're going to take you through what you need to know for the weekend and beyond ahead in your weather forecast. But for now, Natalie, I'll send it over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. The opening ceremony for the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics is set for this afternoon, but competition has already begun across several different sports. CTV's Scott Hurst joins us now live from the CTV National Newsroom with more. Scott, this is always such an exciting time. What is the latest for Canada's athletes so far?
Natalie, good afternoon. A team of more than 200 strong for Canada, and they'll be led by flag bearers, Quebec's Michael Kingsbury and BC's Marielle Thompson. And this team includes almost 36 athletes from the GTHA. Of course, the opening ceremony is always highly anticipated, and it will be a unique event this time around, as for the first time in Olympic history, there'll be multiple ceremonies being held in one unifying ceremony. But even before the big event gets underway, to really officially kick off Milano Cortina Olympic Games, Team Canada has already been taking part in competition, including mixed doubles curling. The team of Peterman and Gallant is now 3-1 in round-robin play. The husband and wife team winning their opening 3 matches, but then losing to the Americans in a 7-5 decision. In big air snowboarding, no Mark McMorris, no problem so far. Quebec's Francis Jobin soaring into the big air final. He'll have a chance at the podium on Saturday in his Olympic debut. And the figure skating program is also underway prior to the opening ceremony, with Canada competing in the team event today and finishing 5th after day 1 of competition in the figure skating program.
And Scott, how are Canadian athletes expected to fare this year compared to past Winter Games?
As we mentioned, more than 200 athletes will represent Canada, and of course, many have their sights set on podium finishes. We mentioned our flag bearers in particular, both medal hopefuls, and both have been Olympic champions before. Now, in the past, Team Canada has done quite well overall, finishing in the overall standings race. And in the past Olympics, the most recent Olympics in Beijing 2022, Canada finished overall with 26 medals, just shy of 29 that they won in Pyeongchang in 2018. However, in Beijing, Canada only had 4 gold medals, so you can bet that there are a lot of people that are looking to get to the top of the podium, and hopefully Canada can build on that mark of just 4 gold medals last time around, Natalie.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst with the latest on the Olympic excitement ahead of the opening ceremony today. Thank you, Scott.
Turning to other news, more than 30 people were killed in a suicide bombing this morning in Pakistan's capital city, Islamabad. Officials said at least 169 others were hurt in the blast. It comes as Pakistan's Western allied government tries to rein in a surge of militant attacks across the country. Nobody immediately claimed responsibility for the blast, but previous attacks have been claimed by the Pakistani Taliban and the Islamic State group.
Well, it has been nearly a week since the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. Her family is renewing their plea for her potential captors to reach out after several purported ransom notes were received.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
The video was posted hours after police said they believe Guthrie was still alive. Ransom notes that were sent to several media outlets are also being investigated. The investigation is also being conducted alongside the FBI, which has issued a $50,000 reward for information on the case. Officials say Guthrie was last seen on January 31st having dinner with family before being dropped back home. She was reported missing the next day.
Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand is in Greenland as Canada opens a new consulate in the capital of Nuuk.
So we are continually ensuring that on numerous fronts, from a defense and security standpoint, from a people-to-people ties standpoint, from a cooperation and collaboration on economic matters standpoint, that we are standing with the people of Denmark and the people of Greenland in the short and the long term.
The launch of a new Canadian diplomatic mission in Greenland is sparking hope for more collaboration on climate change, Inuit rights, and defense. In the face of U.S. President Donald Trump's annexation threats, Trump has demanded U.S. control of Greenland and only recently backed down from threats to use force to acquire the Danish territory.
The man responsible for the Humboldt Broncos bus crash is one step closer to being deported to India. Jaskirat Sidhu's lawyer says the Immigration and Refugee Board has rejected his bid to stay in Canada as a refugee. Sidhu was behind the wheel of a transport truck in Saskatchewan in April of 2018 when he crashed into the Humboldt Broncos bus, killing 16 people and injuring more than a dozen others. Sidhu still has a pending application for the restoration of his permanent resident status.
The Correctional Service of Canada says there's been an uptick in violence involving inmates and guards in prisons. The service says there were almost 3,300 incidents reported in the last fiscal year, which represents about a 45% jump since 2021-22. The Union of Canadian Correctional Officers says the drug trade in prisons has been the #1 factor in prison violence. Advocates believe the increase could be fueled by the so-called inmate code, which can lead to beatings and murders.
Stellantis is selling its stake in its joint venture battery manufacturing plant in Windsor. The automaker says it is selling its stake in the Nexstar Energy plant to its partner LG Energy Solution. Financial terms of the agreement were not immediately available, but LG Energy Solution Chief Executive David Kim said the company sees growth opportunities in North America by situating a key production hub in Canada. Nexstar Energy was established as a joint venture by the two companies in 2022 and employs more than 1,300 staff with a longer-term target of 2,500 employees.
Yesterday, Prime Minister Mark Carney unveiled a new auto sector strategy to make the industry less reliant on the U.S. and gas-powered vehicles. What about reaction to this announcement? Let's bring in CTV's Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa for more on this. So, Jeremy, in about a week, Canadians will be able to make use of the federal government's revised EV affordability plan. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, Nathan, look, this is kind of a new approach for the federal government, doing away with, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's policies when it comes to EVs. They are scrapping entirely the EV mandate that existed, that had been paused up until now. That means the targets that were in place that would have required 100% of vehicles be completely electric by 2040 are now no longer in place. This government is moving forward with a few different ideas instead. The first being reintroducing producing a rebate. So consumers will be able to access this incentive if you're buying an electric vehicle, $5,000, up to $5,000 if you're purchasing a fully electric vehicle, and up to $2,500 if you're purchasing a plug-in hybrid vehicle. When it comes to manufacturers and the approach this federal government is taking, rather than the mandate that was in place prior, this government is going to impose new emission standards for vehicles manufactured between 2027 and 2032, or model years between those years. And then the goal is that moving forward, by 2035, 70% of vehicles would be fully electric, and by 2040, 90% of vehicles would be fully electric. So imposing these targets instead and trying to incentivize Canadian manufacturers to retool their supply chains to ensure that these vehicles can be entirely produced and manufactured in Canada. Rather than these strict mandates, there'll be incentives made available to the manufacturers. There'll be supports for the auto sector, the auto industry, to try and ensure that down the road, Canada can be less reliant, our auto sector can be less reliant on the U.S. So just really, when it comes down to it, a totally different approach this government is taking in terms of looking to reduce emissions and still try and meet some kind of rough targets when it comes to EV vehicles.
Right, so this new approach is coming under fire from the U.S. What are their issues?
Yeah, look, Nathan, here at home, the Canadian auto sector had been pushing for changes to do away with the mandate for quite some time. But what we've also seen is here a new approach to the auto sector and doing some business with China. Canada recently signed a deal with China allowing up to 49,000 Chinese-made EVs into our market. Those will not be subject to these new rebates. The rebates will only be for vehicles that are manufactured by countries that already have a free trade agreement with Canada. So that means China is not on that list, and those new EVs that are coming in will not be accessible with a rebate. But what we have seen is the U.S. administration is not happy with the deal Canada has signed with China. Treasury Board Secretary Scott Bessent making that very clear in recent comments. Here's what he had to say.
When Prime Minister Carney went to China, he lowered tariffs on Chinese EVs from 100% to 6%. U.S. has a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs. We couldn't let our northern border be used as a way for Chinese EVs to come into the U.S.
So the U.S. administration, Nathan, clearly not a fan of Canada's new deal with China, but also what we're seeing through these new initiatives and this new direction announced yesterday is a shift away from reliance on the U.S., and that's as a result of tariffs and the trade war that U.S. President Donald Trump has engaged in, that has really created a bit of a fracture in the North American auto sector, where we're not seeing this big sector that works together between the U.S. and Canada. Rather, we're seeing Washington really focus its efforts on the American auto sector, and Canada now having to look out for itself, really.
All right, understood. CTV's Jeremy Chiron in Ottawa. Thank you.
Anytime.
So we've already had some accumulating snow today. Chances are you had to dust off your car this morning, or maybe do a little bit of light shoveling. As mentioned, though, the afternoon drive is also going to be impacted by today's weather, likely in a different way. We're still looking at falling snow, but we will also introduce blowing snow with some very strong winds kicking in and a squall line around 4 or 5 p.m. that could reduce visibility as well. It's not a whole lot more in the way of snowfall accumulation. Again, a couple of additional centimeters, but it's the winds that are going to be problematic. And then overnight tonight, those winds contribute to our temperature plummeting to near minus 20 degrees. It's going to feel into the minus 30s. Those winds also could be clocking in close to 80 kilometers per hour. Stay with us. A look at your weekend forecast. And are there any signs of a warm-up in the 7-day? We'll show you the possibilities after the break.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
All right, let's talk about the forecast. It seems like every weekend there's something.
When I hear minus 30 with the wind chill, it feels cold already, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I have some good news. It looks like this could be our last big blast of Arctic air.
Hope so.
I don't know
For
if
the whole season?
Well, we'll see. I mean, it looks like we might actually warm up a little bit through the middle part of next week. So that would be good because it's been very cold this winter and it's been very snowy. But guess what? We get both of those things today yet again. Hopefully you're not too tired of it quite yet. Yes, things become quite active as we make our way through the second half of this afternoon, the early part of the evening, and then it's late tonight and especially into tomorrow morning that we will be feeling very cold. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Now, before we talk about the serious weather, we have to acknowledge the fun that comes with extreme cold and, of course, a lot of snow. Check out this snow castle. This is on a front lawn in Kitchener-Waterloo. That is epic, if I do say so. Look at the work that went into this. And again, cold conditions allowing an ice castle like this to stick around. That's beautiful. Bringing it back a little closer to home, we do have some serious weather to talk about for this afternoon, and that's the fact that, yes, the cold tonight will be a dangerous cold, and if you have to be out on the roads today, you need to know that we are under a blowing snow special weather statement here in the Greater Toronto area. There is a yellow level, I should say, blowing snow advisory for areas west of us. There's a blizzard warning in place for the communities in purple. There's very specific criteria for a blizzard warning, but it can be very dangerous if you're out on the road. It really has to do with reduced visibility. There's also snow squall watches and warnings for areas north of here, including into parts of Muskoka. We've got a big cold front that's going to cool us down for tonight. It's also going to likely bring us that squall line later this afternoon and into the early part of the evening. We're going to tap into some very strong northwesterly winds that do stick around right through the day tomorrow. So while the snow itself is going to taper off as the day goes on, blowing snow remains a bit of a concern into tomorrow. I'll remind you of the fact that blowing snow isn't falling from the sky. It's the snow that's being picked up off the ground, carried across roadways. Expect whiteout conditions in some rural areas later on today. But as you'll notice, it's pretty calm otherwise, weather-wise, as we make our way through Saturday and through Sunday. Maybe a couple of additional centimeters of snow at this point here in the GTA, perhaps another 8 centimeters in places like Niagara Falls and Kingston. Those will be the harder hit areas. Still quite warm in the west, very cold in northern Canada, and we're getting a little bit of warmth this afternoon before the dramatic cool down tonight. It is -5 degrees this hour at Pearson, but tonight we're going to fall to around -17, -18 degrees for a low, wind chill -31, and then tomorrow afternoon, mix of sun and cloud, -13 degrees for the high. That's it. It's pretty cold for a daytime high, and we're not alone. -16 degrees tomorrow in Peterborough, -17 in Parry Sound, and -13 for you in the city of Hamilton. All right, let's talk about the 7-day forecast. So pretty calm and quiet conditions, but cold for the weekend. Monday, we're back into the chance of some flurries. Check out the middle of next week, though. Highs near -1, 1, and 0. However, with a return to a little bit of active weather, we could get some mixing, maybe even some freezing rain these days. So we're going to keep an eye on the long-range forecast. That's your weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Longtime Blue Jays announcer Buck Martinez has announced his retirement. The former big league catcher called over 4,000 Blue Jays games over 4+ decades in the booth. The 77-year-old from California first joined the Jays as a player in 1981 and spent his final 6 seasons with Toronto. He also managed the team in the early 2000s. Martinez was diagnosed with cancer in 2022 and took a leave of absence from April to July that year while undergoing treatment.
After a quiet trade deadline day, the Raps were looking to get back in the win column, hosting the Chicago Bulls last night.
3-point games or less. Here's Mamu, big-time three. He's got 15.
The Raps got a big game from Brandon Ingram, who scored 33 points in the 123-107 win. The team will be back on the court on Sunday to play the Indiana Pacers, who currently sit last in the Eastern Conference.
We're gearing up for the big game south of the border. Seattle Seahawks and New England Patriots set to square off in Super Bowl 60 on Sunday. For more on this, we're joined by Kara Wagland, host of NFL on CTV Live. Kara, first off, what's the weather like there? It looks great.
Nathan, it's much better than what you have at home. I'm sorry to say for you. It's been about 17 to 18 degrees. It's a little cooler, a little windier when you get down near the pier where we are now. But it's been pretty nice all week. No rain. I can't complain. We've got lots of sunshine. I'm so sorry to report that.
Yeah, good to hear. So a lot of people are talking about New England and this easy path to get there. Are they that much of an underdog?
They're definitely viewed as an underdog. The last time I checked the line, it was Seahawks were favored by about 4.5 points. It depends on who you talk to. It's certainly the vibe around here is that this is Seattle's game to lose. You've heard all the things people have said about this New England Patriots team. They had an easy schedule through the regular season. Through the postseason, they didn't really face a huge offensive opponent. No Bo Nix for Denver. I mean, that could have been a toss-up game because of the weather itself, but a banged-up Chargers O-line and Justin Herbert, and then a C.J. Stroud who couldn't really complete a pass. They did see some good defenses, though, obviously, in that Houston Texans team, but the D-line, which we know for the Patriots team is very good, they weren't really tested by a good offense throughout this postseason. So while we've seen this team do really well through the postseason, they're still largely untested in a lot of people's eyes, and that's, I think, kind of been the biggest hit for the Patriots.
And what about the quarterback storylines? You got one who's a rookie, you got another one who's, I guess, sort of a journeyman with experience. How do those two match up?
I mean, it's a very unlikely matchup in the Super Bowl for sure. Drake May, his second year in the league, obviously coming off a 4-win season with the Patriots. What Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels have been able to do with Drake May and kind of turning him around and getting him to the Super Bowl. And again, we talk about the criticism against the New England Patriots. That's one right there. This is a second-year guy who's never been here. We've seen him struggle at times. We've seen him face a ton of pressure throughout the postseason. How is he going to handle this Seahawks defense? That's going to be a tough one. We'll see if Drake May is ready for the moment. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sam Darnold, back-to-back 14-win seasons. He had a career year with Minnesota last year, but they chose to move on for him. And you mentioned it. He's kind of been a journeyman throughout the league. No one's really believed in him, but he's found a really good fit here in Seattle. We've seen if he can limit turnovers, if he can play his game and not try to scramble too much, then he can really drive this Seattle Seahawks offense in a very positive and successful way. So if he can keep it clean on Sunday, then I think that Sam Darnold and the Seahawks will likely get it done.
So Tom Brady says he's got no dog in this game and, you know, whatever happens, happens. Did that make sense to you? Are people talking about that?
I mean, there's a little bit of whispers. It sounds like Asante Samuel is the most upset about this. Vince Wilfork, I saw weighing in on social media about that. I mean, if you're Tom Brady, I don't know why you say anything if you really don't have a rooting interest, but obviously he's a legend because of what he did in New England. So to say I don't really have a dog in this fight, I mean, he is a part owner with the Raiders now, so I guess he's got a dog in that fight. It's a really weird one. It's surprising, a little shocking from Tom Brady, but it wasn't the strongest of statements. It wasn't like he was saying he was rooting against the Patriots, so.
All right, we'll see. So are you seeing any rehearsals? Is there any buzz about Bad Bunny in this halftime show?
Certainly buzz. We haven't seen any rehearsals or anything like that yet. He had his press conference just the other day. There's a lot of buzz around the city just in general for the Super Bowl, but I think everyone's really interested to see how this halftime show, I know there's been a lot of buzz surrounding, are people going to be into it? It's not going to be an English language performer. I mean, he won at the Grammy Awards. He's clearly sweeping the nation. He's got 800 million views on 45 of his songs now. Like, he's clearly got the buzz and he's got the support. So I think it's going to be a fun show. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, he's a big deal. So who do you think is going to win the game?
I think it's going to be the Seattle Seahawks. We've been kind of polling our crew around here, and I think everyone so far has picked the Seahawks to win. Brian Hayes from Overdrive is the only person as a part of our TSN crew who is putting his money on the Patriots. So a pretty Seattle Seahawks sweep across the board from us.
Yeah, I agree. All right, host of NFL on CTV Live, Kara Wagland. Thank you so much and have fun.
Thanks so much.
And you can watch Super Bowl 60 on CTV, TSN, as well as stream it on Crave starting at 6 p.m. on Sunday.
And a resident at the Toronto Zoo is getting in on the Super Bowl excitement, placing a prediction on who might win. This is Butters, a great horned owl. He is picking the Patriots to beat the Seahawks in Sunday's big game. As you can see, he did not hesitate. And of course, for what it's worth, owls are known to be quite wise. That is true. What a hoot.
All right, maybe. Still to come, Canada lost 25,000 jobs last month, but also saw a drop in the unemployment rate. We'll take a closer look at the numbers when we come back.
Most people who need a mortgage or a loan will go to a bank, but if they have bad credit, they might seek the services of a private lender.
These are investors who lend money for private loans and can charge higher interest rates, but it also comes with added risk. Pat Foran explains in Consumer Alert.
It was relief. It was financial freedom, I thought. Deanna Johnson of Whitby is a single parent with 3 boys. She has a full-time job and works part-time to pay the bills. That's why she was interested when she heard she could earn income providing loans.
I found out about private lending through social media, Instagram Reels, how to get like a second income to work for you.
Johnson went to her bank and took out a line of credit for $150,000. She found a company to loan out the funds and says the first year went great. She received interest payments of $3,000 each month.
It was a financial relief, some wiggle room.
But Johnson says last year the payments started to be late and then they stopped completely. In June, she asked for her funds to be returned. She's been trying to get her money back for the past 7 months without success.
I would like my money back, my $150,000.
Johnson gave the funds to Deneen Griffith of Unifocus Investments. When CTV News contacted Griffith, she said, "We are currently conducting a full internal review with the third-party company involved. Our priority is protecting our clients and ensuring all appropriate steps are taken."
Just like anything in the world, the higher the interest rate you're being offered, the bigger the risk.
Mark Ting is a financial expert who says people who need private loans have usually been turned down by banks and other traditional lenders. He says that makes it risky, and anyone considering private lending should be extremely cautious.
I would not be comfortable doing that myself, and I probably wouldn't be recommending anybody doing that unless they're extremely wealthy on their own and they could afford to lose that $150,000.
Johnson says she is now stressed and frustrated and worries the $150,000 she lent out could be gone for good.
I feel like I'm back to square one where I started, and it's really will impact my family.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
The latest job numbers are out today, and Stats Canada says the economy lost 25,000 jobs in January, but the unemployment rate dropped to 6.5% as fewer people looked for work. January's job losses largely came from the private sector and part-time work and were concentrated among women aged 25 to 54. Stats Can says the manufacturing sector lost 28,000 jobs last month and is down about 51,000 jobs from a year ago before U.S. President Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canada.
Now to the latest on a troubling medical trend. Researchers have found that rates of psychosis are climbing in recent generations.
Our health reporter Pauline Chan has the details and their implications.
The study looked at more than 12 million people born in Ontario between 1960 and 2009, of whom 152,587 were diagnosed with a psychotic disorder like schizophrenia.
Auditory or visual hallucinations, seeing or hearing things that aren't there. People can also have intense paranoia. So they might think that people are out to get them.
The findings?
More recent birth cohorts seem to be experiencing an earlier age of diagnosis of psychosis and schizophrenia, and actually cumulatively more of it.
And Dr. Daniel Myron says the increase is striking.
What proportion of the generation or the birth cohort has been diagnosed with schizophrenia by age 30? And that's up almost 40%.
Some of the reasons behind this? Myron says the age of birth parents is rising, and that's known to be an increased risk factor for psychosis.
There's been a large rise in opioids and synthetic stimulants like methamphetamines and cannabis and the potency of cannabis, and more recently, interest in hallucinogens.
And increasing urban populations.
People living in more urban centers or more dense places, and for reasons that are not fully understood, seem to have a higher rate of psychotic disorders.
Psychotic disorders are relatively rare, affecting about 2% of the population, but the impact is wide-reaching.
People who have a chronic psychotic disorder have a reduced life expectancy. They have profound implications for their social interactions, for their work.
And patients require frequent, regular contact with the healthcare system.
And, that's compounded on a mental health system in Canada that generally is, under-resourced.
The good thing, says Myron, is that early diagnosis is improving. And in Ontario, the growth of early intervention programs for psychosis has led to some 50 clinics in the province, adding that further research is needed. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Still to come, the AGO is debuting an exhibit from a Scarborough artist. We'll head there to see our Jessica Smith with those details when we return.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
A Scarborough artist is making his debut at the Art Gallery of Ontario with a new large-scale art exhibit.
Features 3 new sculptures highlighting Sikh history in a contemporary art form. CTV Jessica Smith joins us live from the exhibit with more on this. Jess.
Nathan, you have to come down and see it because the scale of it is really hard to explain until you look at it in person. But I'm joined by the artist himself, Ranbir Sidhu. Talk to me about No Limits. We're standing in front of one of the massive structures, but tell me what it's called and kind of what inspired it.
Yeah, this is the Asteroid 3033 X1, and what inspired it is some of my research into art history where, you know, seeing different elements and forms coming together where, you know, some concepts around, say, Bruno and how he was, you know, had ideas around the universe and plural dimensions, and you know, that didn't really end too well for him, and Caravaggio coming up around after that as well. And really it's about the faith and knowledge and connecting that together with the aspects of Sikhism and the scriptures and the entrance of this gallery as well, and the ideas around the infinite universe.
Looking at the scale of it, because this is just one of 3 structures. We'll have more tonight in the full story, but the scale of this really is quite breathtaking. What is it made of? Because I feel like it's not a material that I would necessarily think, okay, that's easy to bend and to move.
Yeah, it's made of mirror finished stainless steel primarily, but there are a lot of internal components made of many other materials. Yeah, I could create a list that goes on forever, but primarily it's mirror finished stainless steel.
Obviously, you're from Scarborough, so shout out to Scarborough and everybody from there. But what does it mean to be able to have your debut here and be at the AGO, this legendary kind of building that has had some incredible artists and now yourself included?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, being able to walk this museum as I was a child and seeing the art history connect together and, you know, being part of that narrative into the future as well, and, you know, being local and allowing people from the community to also be able to understand that, you know, there is a possibility to also push yourself and drive to a limit that, you know, of no limits to possibly be here one day as well.
It is really, really special. Now, you've been here for a couple of weeks. We had opening night very recently. You were saying before we came on camera, what has the reception been like so far? We spoke to a woman just a few minutes ago who was in tears because it took her to a really emotional place. But what's it been like to see people's reactions?
Yeah, it's been really humbling, to be honest. You know, we had an opening celebration a couple of weeks ago, and it brought the whole community and all walks of life out. And it was just, you know, such an honor to be here and listen to everyone's reactions.
Now, there are 3 kind of massive structures here. One of them, we'll show you guys later on. It looks like it's suspended from the ceiling, but it's not. What did it take to kind of structurally... Oh, you know what? We'll have to save that for tonight at 5 and 6. Ranbir, thank you so much. We're going to send things back to the studio, but you have to watch the full story tonight because I promise you guys it will blow your mind. I'll send things back to you guys.
All right, can't wait to see that. Thank you, Jess. Still to come, Olympic fever is spreading here at home. After the break, we head to a local school taking part in their own competition to get into the spirit of the games. As the world's eyes turn to Milan, here in the city, people are getting ready to cheer on Team Canada.
And with excitement building here, some elementary school students got the chance to take part in their own mini Olympic Games this morning. This was the scene over the last few hours at Lambton Park Community School. Students and staff hosted the Mini Olympics event with a number of winter sports and activity stations on offer, including some creative indoor versions of those sports, including curling, magnetic ice fishing, snowboard building, and many more.
We were doing mini Olympics and it is really fun. We did ice fishing, skiing, and we're about to do a cross-country race.
I'm fishing for some fish.
Are the fish biting?
Yeah.
What are you catching?
Probably like a legendary one.
We will have more on the sights and sounds from those mini Olympics at 5 and 6 o'clock.
You know, if ice fishing was an Olympic sport, we would dominate. Don't you think?
We dominate pretty well in the winter.
I don't know who would do well as a spectator sport, but
fair enough.
There
yeah,
you go.
A lot of waiting around. But hey, we're not going to wait any longer for a forecast recap. We'll take one more look at the satellite and radar. It is snowing right now downtown Toronto, very light. However, later on this afternoon, we expect that we will get gusty winds, increasing the intensity of some of the snow out there. There are blowing snow advisories in place around southern Ontario and a blizzard warning close to the shores of Lake Huron. Waking up tomorrow morning, it is all about the cold, although it is worth mentioning it's still going to be windy. There could still be some localized blowing snow as well. It is a big weekend. We take you again to California. There's a look at the forecast for Super Bowl Sunday and kickoff time. Back here closer to home, yeah, significantly colder for this weekend. Natalie and Nathan.
Thank you, Lindsay. And that's it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching. I'm Natalie Johnson.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.